Hello class 11 students, I'm back with another video on the chapter We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together. I hope you have gone through the video lesson on the chapter in the part 1 and we have reached at a point where the author had given the steering to her wife and he has gone down to see what has happened in the ship, and he found that Larry and Herb were trying to keep the water out. Okay, and he has seen that what was the condition of the ship, how the water was getting into the ship. So let's proceed further with the today's lesson. Are you ready to learn with Harpreet Kaur? Yes, let's do it. Let's see what's next in the story. I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. Are you all right? I asked. Yes, they answered from an upper bunk. But my head hurts a bit, said Sue, pointing to a big bump above her eyes. I had no time to worry about bumped heads. So the author says that he has gone to the children's cabin to inquire about their well-being, and he asked them, and the children replied that they were okay while they were sitting at the top of the bunk in the cabin to avoid water. So that they should be at a higher level than the water. And his daughter Suzanne was injured also, and she had a bump on her forehead above the eye. And then she did not make her father cry. Oh Papa, I have got this thing, I'm feeling like this, Papa, please, it's hurting. She did not do anything like that. Imagine a 7-year-old girl and trying to hide her feelings relating. She is just feeling that pain with patience, so that her father, she doesn't want to disclose that thing to her father. And moreover, he said that at that time he was not having time to think over this injury. He had greater things to see. So in the next paragraph, let's see what the steps are being taken by the author to save the ship. After finding a hammer, screws and canvas, I struggled back the deck. With the starboard side bashed upon, we are taking water with every wave that broke over us. If I couldn't make some repairs, we would surely sink. So the authors have seen that he said that I took some necessary instruments and the things required to make some repairs, as he thought that if he won't be able to do repairs, and they will be sinking very soon, and he never wanted to have that situation. So he wanted to do each and everything to save the ship. Okay, now let's see his efforts and what did he do with the instruments and the things he had taken just now. Somehow I managed to stretch canvas and secure waterproof hatch covers across the gaping holes. Some water continued to stream below, but most of it was now being deflected over the side. So he said that he was able to stretch the canvas and then put some waterproof hatches, etc. And after doing so, he noticed that there was less water that was getting into the ship, and most of the water was deflected over the side. That means that was not entering into the ship. More problems arose when our hand pump started to block up with the debris floating around the cabins, and electric pumps short circuit. So, he was thinking that he thought that there is a control over the water, and with the pumping of the water they'll be able to save the ship. But they came across another big problem. What was that? That their hand pumps had been blocked with debris. What are these debris? These debris are the broken pieces of wood and many other things that were in the ship and that have been smashed now. Okay, and the other, their electric pumps were short circuit. Hand pumps, two kind of pumps he had. One is hand pumps and the electric pumps. Hand pumps were blocked because of debris, and electric pump had undergone a short circuit. For both of the pumps, I mean both kind of pumps were not working. The water level rose threateningly. The water level rose threateningly. Back on the deck, I found that our two spare hand pumps had been wrenched overboard along with the forestay sail, the jib, the dinges, and the main anchor. So he just remembered that, oh, I have some spare pumps lying overboard. So he just ran there, and then lying on the deck, he just ran to the deck, and he was really disappointed to see that those pumps had been wrenched. That means they were completely spoiled, and along with that their life-saving things like sail, jib, dinges, everything was not in a position that could be used. Now he was in a fix what to do further. So he was quite worried about also, and then I remembered we had another electric pump under the chart room floor. I connected it to an out pipe and was thankful to find that it worked. And then at that time suddenly something clicked in his mind. Oh, there is an extra pump that is under the floor of the chart room. So he went there hurriedly and picked it out, and then he was very happy and he thanked God that at least that started working. Okay. The night dragged on with an endless, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering, working the radio. We were getting no replies to our Mayday calls, which was not surprising in this remote corner of the world. So here the narrator is explaining us how they spent the whole night. The whole night was terrible. It was an endless struggle of pumping out the water, keep on steering the ship, and working on the radio, trying to connect with the other world. But it wasn't surprised that in that part of the remote world, in that part in the sea, the radio signals were generally don't work, and nobody was giving replies, and they were not getting any kind of replies for their help. Mayday calls is the help they want to have. Sue's head had swollen alarmingly. She had two enormous black eyes, and now she showed a deep cut on her arm. When I asked why she hadn't made more of her injuries before this, she replied, I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all. He could see that his daughter Sue's head was quite swollen because of the injury, and she had also shown him her cut on the arm. And then when he asked why didn't you tell earlier, he said that, Papa, I don't wanted to worry you, especially when you were trying to save us. So look at the patience of the child, look at the courage of the child. A 7-year-old child is keeping the things, especially the injuries, etc., to herself only, just that her father should get the strength and energy, and he should utilize his energy towards saving the ship. Okay, let's move further and see how this adventurous story turns further. By morning on January 3, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in rotation. But we still had a tremendous leak somewhere below the water line. Now here the author says that the night of 2nd January has passed, and now the new day has set in, and on January 3 their water level was sufficiently under control, but there were certain other things that were to be taken care as there was a tremendous leak somewhere below the water line. And on checking, he found other things also, okay, that all the boat's main rib frames were smashed down to keel, In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. Now the whole frames had been ripped off. It was spoiled completely. They were damaged, and the boat was standing. The boat was upright only. Say these are the cupboard frames, and this is the boat, and the boat is balancing on this. The upper portions of the boat is balancing on the cupboard partitions only. We survived for 15 hours since that wave hit. But Wave Walker wouldn't hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. So their destination was Australia, and the author had said in the last 15 hours, whatever the damage had been done to the ship because of the storm, with that damage the ship has become quite weak, and they had a long way to reach Australia. And with that condition of the Wave Walker, he was afraid that they won't be able to reach Australia. Now the next step was to check the way that they can use the path or the distance, do the calculations to see how they can reach a place safely. So let us see what the author does. I checked our charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. One of them, Isle Amsterdam, was a French scientific base. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean, but unless the wind and the seas abated so we could hoist sail, our chances would be slim indeed. The great wave had put our auxiliary engine out of action. So he has done certain calculations, and through that he came to know that there is a certain French based island that is a few hundred kilometers away towards the east direction, and he thinks that he will be able to reach that, but they needed a favorable weather condition to reach there. And he has used a very beautiful expression, pinpricks in the vast ocean. So the two islands he had seen in the chart, in the map. I mean, what are pinpricks? You can well imagine that this is the sea, and that islands are very small. And if we see from a distance, from a great distance, it's just like as if a pin is pricked in a paper, and it has made a smallest hole that is not visible at all. So we can say that these were quite small. These islands were quite small in size, but that was the only hope for them. But he was really afraid whether he will be able to take the ship towards there and save the crew members and his family members, those are on the ship, because their auxiliary engine had also not been working, and the wave and the wind was also not, the speed of the wind was also not favorable for taking the journey. Now let us see what happened on next day, that is January 4. On January 4, after 36 hours, so on January 4, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. So this was a good news that on January 4 they had a control over the water, and they had thrown out most of the water, pumped out most of the water, and the water that they had was under control, and just they need to control the incoming flow of the water in the ship. We could not set any sail on the main mast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So we hoisted the storm jib and headed for where I thought the two islands were. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. So now the conditions were a little favorable. They had a control over the water. They could not hoist the other things, mainsail, etc., because it would be dangerous for the ship. So that they did had the first meal in the last 2 days. That too was of a little meat and a few biscuits. With this, we come to an end of part 2 of the explanation of the chapter. I think you enjoyed every bit of the lesson with me. Write in the comment box the best part of the story you like. Learn the next part with me by clicking on the link in the description box. Don't forget to give a thumbs up and share the video lesson with your friends. Bye for now.